Welcome, everyone, to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. We are live here at the KHTS studio in beautiful downtown Santa Clarita. And we're here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on AM 1220 or 98.1 FM. I am your host, Jessica Hartley, relationship coach and founder of the Legendary Love program. And if you're like me, then you don't want a relationship that is just trying to make it work the whole time. You want something that is thriving, that feels passionate, fun, respectful, and deeply connected. And you'll do what it takes to create that kind of love in your life. Because the truth is that our marriage license doesn't come with any training for success. And divorce rates are still at 50%. And that's why I dedicated myself, my education, my research, and my own relationship to identifying exactly what it takes to make a relationship that thrives. And what I found is that there are 6 key elements that thriving relationships have that everyone else does not. And so I am here to share with you guys that you don't have to break up your relationship. You don't have to throw in the towel. You don't have to break up the family that you created, and you don't have to wait for your partner to meet you halfway, because the relationships that fail are the ones that did not have a successful model to learn from. And that is what the Legendary Love program is doing. The Legendary Love program has provided a strong model for a kind of love that will last and that will thrive. It's a step-by-step course that goes from even the brink of divorce to helping you to thrive in relationship. It gives you the integration of these 6 essential elements in the best way that you can, with the most direct path. It gives you the feedback, the support, the guidance, the step-by-step approach, and the tools that you need, because all of these things are essential for you to be able to create this kind of love and for your life and for your relationship and for your kids and for everything else, to really change the game. You know, for me, it's essential because I came from a childhood that was painful, and so I didn't have that model of love, and it's like, to be able to give this to people, especially that don't have this kind of experience in their life, it just changes the game, because from here forward, our children are going to have a different experience. And that's what's really unique and really special about it. So you can check it out for yourself at www.jessicahartley.com/program. Or you can call or text me directly at 661-347-8473. So today on our show, we're going to talk about some of those biggest mistakes that people make when they're setting relationship intentions and resolutions, and how to make sure that you avoid those so that you can be successful in the way that you create your relationship intentions for this year. And joining me on the show today is the wonderful, beautiful, amazing, and talented Tiffany Gallo. She is such a dear friend of mine. And she is also a sponsor of this show, which is amazing. She is the CEO of Pure Births. She's a midwife. She was my midwife. And she helped me birth my second child into the world. And, you know, one of the things that really stood out to me, Tiffany, is that when I was in that place of going through labor, and you were there by my side. And I don't know, I mean, I'm sure you remember, but I know you have lots of births. But I was a special scenario because I was having a VBAC, and I really wanted to experience a vaginal birth. I had had a cesarean for my first. And as the birth started, I was ready to give up. I was like, just go ahead and give me the cesarean. Like, let's do it. I'm done with this. Too painful. But she really stood by my side and encouraged me in those tough times to be able to make it through towards the goal that I really wanted, that was important to me. And I mean, she got down on my level, and she just really met me where I was at. And she was behind me the whole time, and she made sure she did what it it took in order for me to have that birth that I really wanted. So thank you, Tiffany, for that. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm speaking
Let me put this
a
little bit closer.
So go really close to it.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
There we go. Thank you for having me. And it was a blessing, and I was honored to be by your side through that. And I will never forget that.
Good.
Right.
I will, but I expect you to.
I won't ever forget it. And being with a friend in that space was really beautiful. And watching you go through what you went through and being a part of that it was a beautiful and very bonding experience.
Yes.
And watching the outcome. And I still tell the story, though, about thinking that you were having...
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget about that part.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I was one of those other interesting cases where my ultrasound had said that I was going to have a girl, but I didn't. So I was surprised. And we had a boy, and it was the talk of the town. I only had girl clothes on my son when he was born. It was funny. But it was great because I actually wanted a boy. So it was good. My daughter didn't like it. She was like, "What? I don't have a sister."
Right.
But anyway, so tell me about some of the work that you do here in Santa Clarita at Pure Births.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to speak really close to the microphone. So I'm a midwife. I'm local here in Santa Clarita. I own Pure Births Birth Center, which is right off of McBean and Tournament. We've been there for 2.5 years. But prior to that, I had a home birth practice. But now we've had this birth center open for almost coming on 3 years, actually. And it is... it's just amazing to be able to support the community and give another safe alternative for families that are birthing their families. We offer water birth and holistic prenatal care. So it's a different approach, and it's growing. And I see more and more families seeking an alternative to birthing at the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you guys know that I'm very, I wouldn't say very, but I'm pretty much a holistic minded person. And so I like to do things as holistically as possible. And then I'm also very grateful for other options when I need them,
right.
And so I love being able to do what we naturally did so many years ago as women and birth in the home and in a home setting, and to just have it be a lot more intimate, because there's something that the hospital kind of takes away is like all those bright lights and all those people and everything. And it doesn't allow the whole process, which is a really sacred process, to bring new life into the world. And oh my gosh, the journey that you go through as a woman, finding the strength that you need to birth that child into the world is crazy. So it's a sacred thing, and it's like sometimes the hospital sort of takes that away from us just because that's the norm, and so I love that so many other women are also, tuning into that and seeing that they also crave that kind of sacredness around this birthing process. I think it's so special. But anyway, so today, what I wanted to just sort of start off with, we're going to keep talking about our topic, part 2 of setting intentions and resolutions in your relationship. But I also wanted to just chat a little bit about, because you're so closely connected to what it's like to bring a child into your world as a husband and wife or in a relationship, and what that is like in the relationship. And I'd love to hear from your perspective what that is like as the midwife, watching a mother and father become mother and father, for the first time. I think that's really magical.
Well, first of all, there's never a dry eye. And watching that moment when the mother and the father finally absorb and take it all in and look at this little human that they've created that's half her and half him, you just can't even put words to feeling, but the energy is just so gorgeous in that moment. And something we really practice too is not interrupting that moment of that connection. Immediate skin to skin and family centered delivery is really what's important to us. And for me, and I believe that's a ripple effect of that, you just don't disrupt that immediate with mama and baby and daddy, right? And it's just so beautiful and so joyous. You know, it never gets old.
Yeah.
That moment.
Yeah.
It's just perfection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is so magical and beautiful. But, you know, also there's this other stuff that you don't expect is going to happen as you become a parent. Like, you had no idea that you would never get any more sleep. Like, that would be a thing of the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it was like, I remember just being pregnant and then going into, was so looking forward to birthing my child. And, you know, towards the later end of the pregnancy, it's a pain in the butt. And you're like waddling, you're carrying all this weight. I mean, you can't, like, you have to pee so many times a day.
Right.
And
through the night.
You can't eat things, and you can't, like, there's so many restrictions and stuff. And then I remember looking forward to birthing my child. And then after the baby was here, I was like, I was expecting rest or, I don't know, like getting back to myself or something.
Yeah.
But whoa, was that a little bit of a hard awakening, because now you don't get any rest because the baby is awake at night. Right. And nursing all the time, and you become a human pacifier. And I mean, it's magical. It is. It really is. But also,
when we look back on it, it's much easier to look back on it, right?
Yes.
And when you're in the moment, feel that way.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes.
And, you know, my point is that it creates, it can eventually create stress in the relationship.
Yes.
You know, and stress, you know, if there's not a strong foundation between the husband and wife or the partners that are having the child, it can make things worse. And the funny thing is that I find is that sometimes people try to fix their relationship issues by having another child, you know, like trying to bring a child into the world, because then it's like a diversion of their attention. But really, it actually makes it worse, because you need to have a strong foundation between the two of you, you know, in order to be on the same page with parenting and so many other things, and also be able to support each other when you're not able to nurture that connection between the two of you like you could before, because now there's this other child that is demanding your attention and to live and survive, you know. And also, I think as the mother, we are so connected to really wanting to nurture them in the best way possible, you know. So our attention gets very diverted. And, you know, and it doesn't stop there. Like, just with the birth, it continues. So, you know, and then we have another child and another child.
Right.
So anyway, so it's very important, I think, to have that strong center, those strong foundations in the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely can see, we spend a lot of time with our families, which is really a beautiful part of midwifery as well, is that we spend a lot of time in prenatal care, and we can kind of pick up on some of those lacks of communication or struggles at a marriage or relationship. And not everybody's married, and I want to emphasize that. Yeah. It's not everybody's married, and not everybody, you know, is coming in a great relationship, or maybe it was a surprise pregnancy and things like that. So I see a lot of different types of relationships. But being able to, during that pregnancy, nourish and try to work on what you can with the communication during the pregnancy is really helpful. But, you know, fast forwarding to after delivery, everything changes. Everything, especially if it's your first.
Yeah.
You're talking about the sleep, the communication, the intimacy. There's a shift across the board in relationships for everybody. And that strong foundation is imperative, right? Because it's not going to get easier, and it doesn't get better by having a baby. I believe it's more of a true test of the depth of the true love in that relationship when you do start parenting together.
Yes. And one of those things that comes up is often how to parent the child. That's often a huge disagreement between couples is there's a disagreement in parenting. And it's like, how do I communicate what's important to me? And how does my partner be able to communicate that? And how do we get on the same page?
Right.
Because that is a front that we have to be on the same page with in order to be able to feel like you're in your integrity and, with your child, because we care so much about the well-being of our children, and if we really feel deeply about a specific way to do something and our partner really feels deeply in the opposite direction, that can cause a lot of conflict. And it's something that is essential for relationships to be able to work through when they have such a strong difference of opinion, especially on something so meaningful to each of them,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and take a little break, and on the other side, we'll jump right back into the intentions and the resolutions and the mistakes that we tend to make if we're not aware, and how to avoid those so that we can create intentions that are successful this year in creating the relationship that we want. So this is Jessica Hartley. You're listening to Thriving Relationships, and we'll be right back.
Little I Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little I Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleileaders.org.
Pure Births Pregnancy and Wellness is Santa Clarita's newest birth center, offering holistic prenatal care, water births, labor and delivery, and postpartum care. Owned and operated by California Medical Board licensed midwife Tiffany Gallo, who has been serving expected families in the SCV for over a decade. Pure Births is also a Medi-Cal birth center. If you want to experience a natural birth with the freedom to birth your way in a safe and professional environment, contact Pure Births on Tournament Road near McBean, purebirths.com.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
At the Burrito Factory, their motto has always been to serve quality food with fast, friendly service. But did I mention the taste? When it comes to authentic taste and huge mouth-watering burritos, the Burrito Factory is second to none. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or a catered event, Burrito Factory has the taste of Mexico to satisfy your craving. Burrito Factory on Soledad Canyon Road next to Chi-Chi's Pizza in Canyon Country. Stop in or call ahead 288-0222.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Welcome back to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. I am Jessica Hartley, your host, and I'm here with Tiffany Gallo, the midwife and CEO of Pure Births here in Santa Clarita. And we are talking about today the mistakes that we make when we're setting intentions and resolutions, specifically around relationships today, and how to avoid those mistakes, because we want to be successful, and I want you guys to be successful when you're creating the relationships that you really, really want. So the first thing that I want to just bring up is that when we start with let's start with a review, because we started this conversation last week. So the few things that we talked about last week was to first write down those 3 big intentions, those 3 big goals, those things that you really, really want to create and cultivate in the relationship. Make them bold. And then second is to start being the model, meaning that you want to start to step into what it will look and feel like when you have that that intention, or when you've already, as if you already have it. So it's like acting the part, because this is essential, because when you act as if, then you're in the energy of, you're in sync with the energy that it creates to cultivate that around you. For example, if you are upset or disappointed in the relationship that you have right now, and you look around you and you're like, it's not good enough, I wish this was better, and then you're nagging the spouse and things like that, you're actually cultivating more of what you don't want instead of what you do want. So when you act the part, it allows you to step into the energy of appreciation, seeing the good around you, and nurturing even more of that good, summoning even more of that good around you, and allowing you to really be in the energy of creating that kind of relationship. And then some of the other things were self-honor. We talked about how important it is to be in integrity with who you are, and to know your worth, and to not allow things that are disrespectful or dishonoring to who you are and to your integrity to happen in the relationship, and to stand up for yourself when those things do show up, or if they do show up. So that's also important. And then the other thing that we mentioned was just not playing the victim anymore. You know, playing the victim is in blame and in, being upset because things are happening, and not taking responsibility for the part that you have to play. You know, whenever there's a conflict, sometimes it's hard to see, but there's always a part in it that you're adding to that conflict. There's obviously, the clear thing to see is what they're doing wrong, but the harder thing to see is the energy that you have inside of you that's creating the sort of environment that has that kind of reflection in your reality. So what we want to do is just make sure that those things are, that we really have those down first. And then some of the biggest mistakes is that we get into need. That's huge. Mm-hmm. So the minute that we become desperate, or we just really, really need our intention to happen, or our partner to do a set of things, whatever it is, the more that we go into need about it, the more that we're actually blocking it from coming into being. Because the minute that we go into need, we are in the state of control, and we're blocking ourselves from giving freely and receiving freely. And things start to get a little bit more robotic and a little bit more, for lack of a better words, fake. You know, it's like if there's any giving or doing that's happening, it's because there's someone that needs it to happen. And it doesn't come from a genuine place. And that is not what you want. What we want is to have the relationships and the things that we create from a genuine place. We want to create these things from a place that feels open and freely given, and given without strings attached. And in order to do that, we have to recognize that this place of need can really, it's so easy to get into. I've gotten into it plenty of times, I know. And, when I really, really, because I'm a determined person, and sometimes that gets in our way because I really, really want this to happen. But then I block myself. I don't allow the truth or the best way for it to come through to I'm not even open to it. And it's the minute that we allow ourselves to do the opposite of need, which is really trust and let go of the outcome, and that we really open up to it. And I have to say, like, my experience of that has been nothing short of magical, because it really sometimes is the minute I let go, and then it's like within the next hour, just things shift and change, and there's a whole nother energy that's present. I think at the latest, it honestly has taken like maybe a week for something like that to change. And then the thing comes in, and sometimes it's a different way than we expected. It comes in that the solution or whatever it is that we were looking for comes in. And sometimes about half the time, it's a totally different way than the way that I was thinking it had to come in before. What's your experience with this, Tiff?
I can completely relate with everything you're saying. I think, with that need, I always say there's a difference between a need and a want, right? So I was listening to you speak, the difference between the need and wanting. And when you're in that, the want, it's more of a yearning, and the needing is out of needing to be in control. Right, for specific actions, having those expectations, things to go your absolute way, but releasing that over to the energy of what will be is huge. And you are so absolutely right that it will come in a different way, shape, or form, usually than what. And you may even be you will be even more pleasantly surprised, most likely, with that outcome, and have more clarity.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because we get into this sort of like a spiral of just negativity, and it builds on itself, where if I'm not seeing the thing that I want in my relationship, then I just sort of focus on that. So I stop seeing the good. I stop noticing where some of the things that I am looking for are coming in, and I just start, I go into blame, I go into, you're doing it wrong, and, different things like that. And it really does create in my partner a negative experience too. So then they're feeling like, oh, well, now I need to fix myself, or, I'm not good enough. And then so now we have two negative experiences, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it will get worse and worse.
It's a downward spiral.
Yeah. Resentment comes in, and then, you start to feel like you're totally responsible for the way the other person feels, for their happiness, and for things like that. And it's actually just so opposite of what we actually want when we're creating intentions. So, you guys, this is huge, and it's a simple thing, but it is the hardest thing sometimes to recognize and to take ownership for, and to stop yourself in your tracks when you're doing it. The other thing that is similar is when we judge something as wrong, or when we push against something. So let's say I have a desire, and so then the desire is the opposite of something I see currently, and I'm judging it. Okay, so this is easy to do too. Me judging it or pushing against it, and just having a negative energy around it. The judgment and the pushing against actually creates more of that same thing.
You're calling that same energy.
Yeah.
You're just calling more and more of it.
Yes.
in.
It's like instead of rising above it, you're joining it, and you're cultivating more of it.
And you're manifesting more of it.
Yeah. It's so crazy, because it's like when you put that anger, that negative energy towards the thing that's in front of you, because you want it to change, you're doing the exact opposite of what you actually want when you want to create an intention. So the most important thing is to recognize that either going into need or going into judgment or pushing against something, all three of these things are absolutely detrimental and will do the opposite, actually, of giving you success with your intentions. And it really doesn't matter what your intentions are, like what you're creating, but specifically about relationship, it's going to make the relationship worse then it already is, So I want you guys to be successful. So I really, really want you to take note of those things and be very aware. So I think the question is, for most people, is, okay, well, then what do I do instead? So aside from acting the part and being the model and knowing my worth and things like that, some of the other things that are important are to recognize where you have opportunity to heal. So when we are in a relationship and we see something that we don't want, and we're sometimes so irked by it, this actually is a reflection of some place inside where there's something that is holding on in a certain way with a negative energy about something, because there's some wound or some pain that's in that place. And that is really our opportunity to heal it. So I've said before, but if you can fill in the rest of the sentence, I'm upset because, and then there's more for you to say there, you have a wound and a trigger that can be addressed and healed, because that sentence basically says that someone else is responsible for my emotional peace, is disturbing my peace. So you're giving your power away to things that are outside of you. And you can still not like the things that are going on outside of you or not agree with them, but when they irk you, when they really give you a negative disposition inside of yourself, there's something going on there that is fueling some of the negative experience in your outer experience with your partner and with your relationship or whatever it is that you're cultivating. So recognize this and then take responsibility to heal it. There's something that I've created, a process that I've created that I do with my clients. We call them deep healing sessions. And they're very unique because we do, it's not just, come in for an hour and vent. It's more about come in and with the intention of healing this wound. And so it usually lasts anywhere between 90 minutes to 2 hours long, because my whole goal and my whole intention with it is to heal this thing that has been holding you down and holding you back from being able to live more powerfully with your power in your relationship and in your life, in all the roles that we have. I think especially as women, because women have so many roles that we hold. We're mother, we're wife, we are, we have the relationship with ourselves and our own integrity. We're business women. There's so many different roles, and it's important for us to recognize when we are carrying something, because it will affect all of the areas in our life in that way. Do you have any experience or thoughts on that?
Experience, yes. So much experience. But the power, I was listening to you in these having to pinpoint where somebody else is wrong. You're right that it is, anytime we can find I'm angry with you or this is wrong, where does that come from with inside? It's a trigger for us somewhere, right? Mostly from childhood, most likely.
Yeah.
But where can we heal that? And then it's really being able to, like you said, heal whatever that may be. But the process needs to be there. You have to be willing to see what that may be.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the hardest part for anybody is to really
notice.
And maybe you don't notice, open up about it, take responsibility and address it and feel the feelings that are going to come, because it's not really about that situation. It's not really about what that person said.
Right. Usually those things are on the surface.
Right.
And they're the triggers for the thing that's a lot deeper. Yeah.
And just getting unstuck, that always comes back to me. We get stuck, right? So it's unsticking ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And so when we, the way to unstick yourself, like if you notice, if it feels like you've been stagnant in this thing that you've been trying to create for yourself, just acknowledge that there's something that I have that's stuck right now. I'm not in my momentum. I'm not in my power or my momentum. I'm not actively going forward. And so there's something that is inside of you that is creating this stuckness. So part of that is not being the victim and blaming the world, but actually taking responsibility for where inside of you that you're creating that. It could be in business, in love, in, marriage, or whatever it is. If you notice that you're feeling stuck, acknowledge that and address it and take responsibility for that. Right. And then I was saying, it's like, there's a way to heal that in a very deep and profound level. And it's about readdressing, like, number one, being able to find where that root of that wound or that stuckness is, and then to redefine all of the meanings about it that you created. And that's really essentially what I'm doing when I have these deep healing sessions is I help facilitate that recreation of all those negative meanings about that situation that was created. And it's a very deeply healing process. I think that if anyone is, any of my past clients are listening, you should definitely make some notes on the Facebook Live feed about your experience of going through those deep healing sessions, because they are really, they're really life-changing. They're really phenomenal.
They're life-changing, and not only for you, but for your partner, your spouse, your children.
It changes everything. Yeah.
Taking that time and accountability and responsibility to go back and heal.
Yes.
It's a gift to not only yourself.
Yeah, but everyone. And your kids. I mean, gosh, everything. And your business, if you work, like everything. It just, it affects everything. So that's another thing to do instead of going into the need. So if you feel like you have this need, or like you're in this energy of wanting to control, or wanting to, or you're in judgment of what you see in front of you, take some of that responsibility and say, you know what, there's something inside of me that needs to shift and needs to change, and do what it takes to heal that wound and really heal it. You got to get to the root of that wound. You don't even mess around on the surface level. It's kind of a waste of time. Really get to the root of where that wound is coming from, and you'll change everything. Everything will sort of shift, and you'll have a whole new, it's like you'll rise up into a whole new energy around the situation and around it. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and take our second break today. We'll be right back, and when we get back, we'll discuss a few more things about how to create and manifest with power. See you then.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Hey guys, this is Cardinellis, host of the new show Problem Solver Politics, an independent political talk show that keeps you up to date and in the know on the latest political happenings both nationally and here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Now, this isn't your usual partisan political talk show. At Problem Solver Politics, we don't rant, we don't spew talking points. We have experts from all avenues talk about specific problems and how to solve them. And if your party is in the wrong, we will tell it to your face on air every Sunday at 7 p.m.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
Pure Births Pregnancy and Wellness is Santa Clarita's newest birth center, offering holistic prenatal care, water births, labor and delivery, and postpartum care. Owned and operated by California Medical Board licensed midwife Tiffany Gallo, who has been serving expected families in the SCV for over a decade. Pure Births is also a Medi-Cal birth center. If you want to experience a natural birth with the freedom to birth your way in a safe and professional environment, contact Pure Births on Tournament Road near McBean, purebirths.com.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Welcome back to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. Tiffany, my guest, is here with me in the studio today, midwife and CEO of Pure Births. We are talking about the setting relationship intentions with power and what not to do and what to do instead so that we can be successful in creating the kind of relationship or really any kind of intention that you want to create this year. So we talked about how it's super important not to go into need, to let go of needing your intention to manifest or come about in the way that you think is right. So it's important to set the intention, but not go so far so that you need it to happen. So you've got to sort of let go and trust that it will happen in the best way possible. And open to a different way, because sometimes it comes in a different way. Mm-hmm. We also talked about how judgment or pushing against what's in front of you now will only create more of what you don't want. It creates the energy to set more of what you're not wanting inside of your relationship. And then we talked about healing our wounds and just really taking responsibility for the part that you have in it, meaning it's so hard to notice sometimes that there's another side to this, because it's so easy to look at what we don't want or what's happening outside and not take ownership for the other side of it, which is what's happening inside and where I'm creating from and the energy that I have going out into my relationship. And it's very important to notice when there's an opportunity to heal a trigger or a wound, and to that when we can notice it and take responsibility for it and actually go in and heal it, our whole world absolutely changes, not just for within ourselves, but within our relationship and with our children and our business and everything. It affects everything. So those are the things that we've been talking about today. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight was to trust your heart. And what I mean by that is that, well, actually, you know, there's a study, I don't know if you've heard it, but there's this study that has identified that there are neurons in our hearts, just like there are in our brains. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about that? Yeah. Yes. And so it's like we have really two brains in our bodies, and one is mind-driven and one is heart-driven. And generally speaking, men tend to be a little bit more dominant in the mind-driven brain, and women tend to be more dominant in the heart-driven brain. And when you're creating and setting intentions, whether you're male or female, it is important to really trust the heart on this one, because the heart is really the one that's in charge of the mind. You know, the heart is the one that has the emotional center, and the emotions are linked to our thoughts, and that's how it sort of is in more control or more at the root of what happens with our mind, because the mind is thought driven, you know, so it will listen to whatever thoughts that we choose to entertain. So you're telling us
to listen to our heart.
I am.
Okay.
Yes. Listen to your heart.
Listen to your heart.
Yes.
All right.
And you know, what does that mean exactly? Well, you know, I believe that the heart speaks to us through inspiration. You know, so we might feel inspired to go do something. If you feel, you know, that inkling or that you know, you could feel it sometimes in your heart, if you know what I mean. It's like there's an opening of the heart, there's a possibility, there's an energy, it feels good, it feels open. That's listening to the heart. So go do that thing. And sometimes it might mean taking a risk, you know, and that I think is where the mind comes in and shuts down what the heart is saying, because the mind will be like, oh no, you might get hurt. you know.
Remember what happened the last time you tried to do something like this.
Yes. Yes. And the mind is mostly responsible for protecting us. You know, our little friend, the amygdala, is responsible for that in our brain. And it is good because sometimes we do need protection, you know, but the amygdala, that little guy, he doesn't understand the difference between a physical real threat or an emotional possible threat, you know. And so all the emotional stuff we need to work through, because if we don't, we won't thrive in our relationships or in our life, you know. And if we stay in fear of all that emotional stuff, then we really trap ourselves into a box, and we're not living at our fullest capacity, especially in our relationships. So it's important for us to trust the heart, and if we have that inspiration to go and do something, to do it, because once you start moving in the energy of seeing the good all around you and acting the part and trusting and letting go, then you're going to start creating and you're bringing in this relationship intention that you have for yourself. There's not really any other way about it. There's a very specific process to this. And so people will come in. It could be, maybe if you're looking for a relationship, it could be the person that you're looking for, or it could be someone that could lead you to the person that you're looking for, or it could be a mentor. If you're married, you know, you might have a specific mentor that comes into your life. And so trusting that when you're in this momentum, to number one, acknowledge that you're in momentum, because it feels very different from feeling stagnant. And then second, to trust when the heart is bringing these people in, and to boldly go in that direction, because otherwise it's like, you know, you could buy into all of the fears of the mind, and that will keep you stuck. And then it's like, well, you asked to create this, but then, and I'm leading the way, and then you just don't want to go through that door because it's scary,
right?
You know, and it's like, well, okay, what kind of life do you want to live? You know, what are we doing here if we're not going to move boldly through to the directions of our dreams, you know, and our intentions, and the kind of experience that we want? It's super important for us to take responsibility for that.
Right.
What do you have to say about fear?
Wow. It's a big one to conquer.
Yeah.
It is a big one. You got to move through it.
Yeah.
Everything is on the other side of fear. Mm-hmm. Everything's waiting for you on the other side.
Yep.
For me personally, there's been big leaps, even, you know, just being the midwife and opening a birth center, and
yes.
all odds against me, and being a single mom, and trying to, you know, everybody telling me I'm crazy, and that, why would you do that? That's such a big risk. And that's a big one, even in business, and then in personal life. You know, there's so many things are fearful, but how will you know if you don't take that leap? How do you know what's on that other side?
Yeah.
And if you do, you know, have that quote unquote, you fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you pick yourself back up and you do it again.
Yeah. You know, the only way to really find the path is to sometimes find what the path is not, you know, and go through the next door. Then, you know, you don't stop going or growing. You just you dust yourself off, like you said, and you pick yourself up, and you go into the next door. Okay, it's fine tuning you. You know, it's just like anything. You know, you try one way, and that's not it, and then you just move a little bit the other direction, and then you keep going forward, and then you will find yourself having eventually manifested and created the thing that you intended to create for your life. Just remember, you guys, so don't go into need, don't go into judgment, don't go into pushing against, and be the model. Start acting the part. Detach from the outcome. You have to be willing to let go and detach from the when, the how, and really find a place where you are feeling good with the place that you're in right now. We'll talk a little bit more about detachment because it's a big topic next week, and that will be part 3 of the series, the last part of the series. I have a very special formula for you guys to follow when you want to create the intentions that you're looking for. So do that work, trust your heart, and and you'll find yourself having manifested that kind of relationship. So I'm Jessica Hartley. This is Thriving Relationships. If you guys want to get a hold of me, you can always reach out to me at any time. You can call or text 661-347-8473, or you can find me online at www.jessicahartley.com/program, and you can find all the information about the Legendary Love program there. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys next week for part 3. Bye for now.